Chapter 8. The Trap Tightens. The night was cold and damp, the city shrouded in a thick mist that clung to the streets and turned the faint glow of streetlights into ghostly orbs. Detective Lena Walsh crouched behind the dashboard of her unmarked car, parked in the shadows of an industrial district near the docks. Beside her, Marcus Dalton fidgeted nervously, his eyes darting to every shadow that moved. "This place gives me the creeps," Marcus muttered, pulling his hood tighter. "Feels like we're walking into a setup." Lena didn't look at him. Her eyes were locked on the entrance to a warehouse 50 yards away, its exterior dark and silent, save for the occasional flicker of light through the cracks in its corrugated walls. "It's not a setup," she said, her voice calm but firm. "It's an opportunity." "For you, maybe," Marcus snapped. "For me, it's a death sentence." Lena turned to him, her gaze sharp. "If we don't do this, you're dead anyway. The Rossis already suspect you. You think hiding is going to save you?" Marcus exhaled sharply, rubbing his hands together to steady his nerves. He hated that she was right. "So what's the plan exactly? Just walk in there and hope they're too stupid to notice us?" "No," Lena said. "We're here to observe. You said they were moving something tonight. Guns, drugs, money. Whatever it is, we need to know where it's going and who's running the operation." "And if they see us?" Marcus asked. "They won't," Lena said, though her hand instinctively moved to her sidearm. Inside the warehouse, Dominic Rossi stood at the center of a chaotic operation. Crates were being loaded onto trucks by a team of men in dark clothing, their movements brisk and efficient. Maria Rossi paced nearby, barking orders, while Joey Eyes Fontana worked at a laptop on a makeshift desk, monitoring security cameras set up around the perimeter. "Everything's on schedule," Maria said, her tone clipped. "But we've got to move faster. I don't like how quiet things have been lately." Dominic nodded, his expression calm but calculating. "Quiet means Walsh is planning something. She doesn't rest." "She's not the only problem," Maria said, lowering her voice. "Dalton's been acting strange. I don't trust him." Dominic glanced at her, his eyes narrowing. "If he's the leak, we'll know soon enough. And when we do," Maria smirked, "he won't be a problem anymore." Lena and Marcus watched from their vantage point, the tension between them thickening with each passing minute. Through the warehouse's cracked walls, they could make out the faint sounds of movement, footsteps, the hum of engines, the scrape of crates being loaded. "There," Lena whispered, pointing as a black SUV pulled up to the warehouse. A tall man stepped out, his silhouette sharp against the misty glow of the headlights. "Tony Luciano," Marcus said, his voice barely audible, "one of Dominic's enforcers." Lena's pulse quickened. If Luciano was here, this wasn't just a routine shipment. "We need to get closer," she said. Marcus grabbed her arm, his grip tight. "Are you insane? If they see us—" "They won't," Lena said, already moving. "Stay here. Keep watch." Marcus cursed under his breath as Lena slipped into the shadows, her figure disappearing into the fog. He hated being left behind, but he hated the idea of getting caught even more. Inside the warehouse, Dominic approached Joey, his tone low but firm. "Anything on the cameras?" "Just a couple of strays near the lot," Joey said, not looking up from his screen. "But nothing to worry about." "Make sure of that," Dominic said. "If Walsh is anywhere near here, I want to know." As Joey typed furiously, Maria approached Dominic, her expression tense. "We should have killed Dalton when we had the chance. He's a liability." Dominic's gaze hardened. "We don't act without proof. If he's the leak, we'll handle it. But if he's not, we're not wasting resources on paranoia." Maria didn't look convinced, but she nodded. "Your call." Lena moved silently along the side of the warehouse, her heart pounding as she pressed herself against the cold metal wall. She peered through a crack, her breath catching as she saw the crates being loaded onto trucks. The markings on the side of the boxes confirmed her suspicions. Guns, smuggled through the port under the guise of construction materials. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, and she pulled it out, careful to shield the screen's glow. A single message from Marcus. "Hurry, something's not right." She turned back toward the lot, scanning the area for any sign of movement. That's when she saw him, Tony Luciano, pacing near the edge of the warehouse, with his hand resting on his holstered gun. He was talking into a radio, his voice too low to hear, but his posture screamed alertness. Lena's instincts flared. They were being watched. Back in the car, Marcus sat stiffly, his eyes darting to every shadow. His phone buzzed with another message, this one from an unknown number. "You're in deep, Marcus. Run while you can." His breath caught, his mind racing. Was it a threat? A warning? He shoved the phone back into his pocket, his chest tightening with fear. Before he could react further, a pair of headlights swept into the lot, and another car pulled up beside him. A man stepped out, his face partially obscured by the fog, but Marcus recognized him instantly. Daniels. The officer approached, his expression cold. "Marcus," he said, his tone flat. "We need to talk." Marcus's stomach dropped. He had known about Daniel's betrayal, but seeing him here, in the middle of the Rossi family's operation, made it all too real. "What are you doing here?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. "Cleaning up a mess," Daniel said, pulling out a gun. "And you're part of it." Lena heard the commotion just as she made her way back toward the car. The muffled sound of voices, followed by a sharp cry. She broke into a run, her sidearm already drawn. When she rounded the corner, she saw Marcus struggling with Daniels, the gun between them. Without hesitation, Lena raised her weapon. "Drop it," she shouted, her voice cutting through the fog. Daniels froze, his eyes darting between Lena and Marcus. "You don't understand, Walsh," he said. "You're in over your head." "Drop it," Lena repeated, her aim steady. "Now." Daniels hesitated for a moment longer before finally letting the gun clatter to the ground. Marcus stumbled back, breathing heavily, as Lena moved in to cuff Daniels. "You're done," she said, her voice cold. "And so are the Rossis." The night wasn't over. As the trucks pulled away from the warehouse, Lena knew the Rossis had slipped through their fingers for now. But with Daniels in custody and the evidence mounting, the noose around Dominic Rossi's empire was tightening. Lena glanced at Marcus, who sat slumped against the car, his face pale but alive. "This isn't over," she said. Marcus nodded weakly. "It never is." The fog thickened around them as Lena's mind raced with the battles still ahead. The war wasn't won, but tonight they had drawn a line in the sand.